Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I'm excited for everyone to be here and to meet with all of us tonight. So again, this is the Exploring Diverse Careers in Banking event. Just want to let you know that this session is being recorded. So we are going to go ahead and get started though. Perfect. So what I'm doing right now is sharing the check-in information on the screen. So you can go ahead and take your phone. If you're an SNHU student, you can hold it up, basically take a picture of the QR code, and that's going to go ahead and check you into the event. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. But also, Peter already mentioned it, but while you're here today, feel free to let us know in the chat, where you're coming in from, what your major is, things like that. I've already shared I'm based in Texas, so it's currently tornado season. We've got a windstorm, so it's going to be an exciting presentation today. But I also, in the meantime, wanted to let you know about our accommodations and access policy. So your experience at SNHU is very important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design or delivery that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the Online Accessibility Center if you're an online student. You can do so by emailing oac@snhu.edu or by phone at 866-305-9430. If you're a campus student, you can notify the Campus Accessibility Center by emailing cac@snhu.edu or by phone at 603-644-3118. And finally, if you are faculty or staff, you can notify the Human Resources Office by emailing hr@snhu.edu. I'm now sharing some ways that you can go ahead and connect with SNHU. So this includes SNU Connect, which is a great way to network with other students. There's also information on how you connect with the SNHU Career Services. So we offer resume assistance, career exploration, all sorts of services. So feel free to reach out to us and connect with us with the ways here on the screen. I'd also like to share a couple of tips for engagement for this evening. You've probably noticed that your mic and camera is turned off. This is so that we can focus on the presenters, the panelists, and what's being said tonight. If you do have any questions, we welcome them. You can go ahead and put them in the chat box on the right side of your screen. I'll be monitoring the chat box throughout the event. So if you do have any questions, we will go ahead and ask that at the end of the presentation. And again, if you have any questions about how to access these events, how to best network at these events, feel free to reach out to their career services as well. I also wanted to introduce our panelists, so they'll be able to introduce themselves in detail once we get a bit further into the presentation. But joining us today, we do have Amy, Emily, Laura, Jen, and Andrew. So we're really grateful for their time here today. And again, they'll be able to introduce themselves a little bit further on in the presentation. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do here is switch over. We have a brief video that we're going to show you. If you can just bear with me for a second while I make sure that my sound is also working. Perfect. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and enjoy this video.
Hello, future prospective bankers. My name is Elise Cushing. I work at Meredith Village Savings Bank as a business development officer.
I'm Sarah Rosley. I'm a mortgage loan officer with the Savings Bank of Walpole.
Hello, my name is Amy Mavris. I work in the marketing department for New Hampshire Mutual Bancorp.
Hi, my name is Rennie Gust, and I am with Bar Harbor Bank and Trust.
My name is Kevin Mitchell. I am a senior loan processor at Bank Prob.
My name's Kendra Carter, and I work in the retail department at Savings Bank of Walpole.
Hi, I'm Sarah Fraze, and I'm the marketing specialist at First Seacoast Bank.
Hi, I'm Danielle Ruffo. I work at Savings Bank of Walpole as the CEO, which for me stands for Community Engagement Officer.
There is a misconception that that the banking industry is for stuffy older folks, but it's not. There's a lot of young people, and there's a lot of opportunities for young people because they do want to retain those in the industry.
Don't look at it as, oh, banking's a stuffy three-piece suit kind of job. I'm not wearing a suit.
Even though it's banking and you look at it as numbers and helping customers, there are a lot of different areas that you can work in. It's definitely something that people just graduating could definitely make a career out of.
I think a lot of people think to themselves, I'm not great with math, so why would I work at a bank? But the truth is, banking can open the door to IT, to sales positions, to human resources, and all these other careers that may be hard to break into.
There's great opportunities in marketing, compliance, technology, and so much more.
You can work in marketing, you can work in finance, you can work as a mortgage lender or a commercial lender, an analyst.
You can go finance, marketing, lending, retail.
Supervisory positions, management positions. If you are really into sales, you could do something like I do in business development.
IT to accounting.
Operations teams who manage our data systems, add creative, the madmen type stuff. Not really.
Opportunities exist with banks to start part-time or start in an entry-level job and then just get the on-the-job knowledge to work your way up into different positions.
There's an immense amount of options to go from, and so if you start in one aspect, you're not limited to stay there.
There's almost something for everyone in the banking industry.
When I came out of college with a business leadership focused degree, I needed that real world experience to help find my path. This job gave me so many opportunities to work with areas across the bank, and it also helped me develop some strengths of my own.
I've had to, reach out and do some business development, and that's just pushed me personally to just take it a little bit further than what I'd be comfortable doing.
I've had a ton of different learning opportunities, and I've learned so much from all of the different people I work with. So I'm really grateful for that personal growth and working in an industry that really supports that.
You definitely have to be driven and be willing to learn new things for real life skills by working in banking that many people might not have so early on. I actually majored in sport management, and here I am in banking, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I was lucky enough to encounter so many different mentors in leadership roles, eager to share their knowledge and guidance throughout my career.
Having an incredible support system and having the drive and ambition to do so, you can really work up the ladder in the banking industry. You really have to manage yourself to kind of champion that position you're in and make more of it for yourself.
When I took a position as a teller at 22 years old, I never expected it to lead to a career in marketing and graphic design. I had zero graphic design experience. Now I'm creating print and digital ads on a regular basis. And I think what's great about banking is they really know when to invest in something great. And your future could be the next great thing for them.
I really feel like we are making a difference every day for all the customers that we serve in our local communities.
When you live in the community where you work, your customers aren't just a name or an account number. They're your friends, they're your neighbors, they're your kids' teachers. And when people ask me questions about the bank or where I work, I always have a sense of pride in knowing that we're looking out for what matters most at our business, and that's the people.
Especially being part of a community bank, I get to play a role in the place that I love.
Why not have a job that you not only enjoy doing, but that gives you that sense of pride and purpose?
Being part of that community of bankers, both in the workplace and out in our neighborhoods doing community service, working on similar mutual projects, and really comes down to the people and the relationships that I've been able to build. So push yourself out there, look into it, do your homework, consider becoming a banker. I'm really glad that I did.
Perfect. Thank you all for watching that. So what I would like to do now is go ahead and kick it over to the panelists. And if y'all could just kind of round robin, if you could introduce yourselves, your title, the bank that you work at, that would be perfect.
I can go. This is Laura. So hi everyone. Thanks Daisy for hosting us here today. I am Laura Goupel. I work for Bank of New Hampshire. I'm an IT specialist and just really excited to be here today. I am also a SNU alum, so I graduated right right in June of 2020. So I squeaked in at the end of the pandemic, or the beginning of the pandemic rather, but yeah, excited to be here today.
Thanks, Laura. I'm happy to go next. I'm Jen Elms. I am Mascoma Bank's Senior Talent Management Business Partner, and I am based out of our corporate office in Lebanon, New Hampshire.
I can go. My name's Amy Navris. I've had a little bit of a job change since I was in that video, but I now serve as Vice President, Marketing Communications Officer for Just Meredith Village Savings Bank. We're part of a family of New Hampshire-based financial institutions. And it's where I started my first job in high school, and I've been here pretty much ever since.
I can go next. My name is Andrew Richardson. I am a Vice President Commercial Loan Officer for Savings Bank of Walpole in Keene, New Hampshire. And I'm not a SNHU alumni, but I'm a Colby Sawyer College alumni in Central New Hampshire. So I have been with the bank a little over 2 years, and prior to being a commercial lender, I was a branch manager for 2 other institutions. So I have a little over 10 years banking experience.
And I guess I will round it out. I'm Emily LeClaire, and I am a commercial loan assistant with Woodsville Guarantee Savings Bank. I've actually held several different positions over the last 11 years with Woodsville, starting from teller and working my way up to where I am currently today.
Perfect. Thank you. And actually, Emily, you set me up really well. If I could, again, put it back out to everyone, and perhaps, Emily, if you wanted to get started, but if you could just explain a quick overview of basically how you got where you are right now. So your first job versus your current job, how you got into banking, just a quick overview in that sense.
I first got into banking because I had actually been laid off from my previous job. Working in a restaurant was not, we weren't busy, so they laid a few of us off, and I had cash handling experience and gave it. Somebody had mentioned they were looking for a part-time teller at another financial institution, so I figured I'd give it a shot and see if I could get it, and that was how I got into it about 12 years ago. With Woodsville, I started about 11 years ago in February, starting with, again, just as a teller, moving into customer service, branch supervisor, down into our operations ATM department, and then for the last 4 years, I've been doing commercial loans.
Thank you. And I'll put it over to everyone else too, if everyone else wouldn't mind, just the same question, basically, how you got where you are right now.
Sure, I can go. So I graduated Colby Sawyer College in 2006. I was a sports management major, and found out pretty quickly that a career path in that field would be a little bit challenging, being a rural Vermont community where I grew up, to find a job in an inner city for what I was looking to do. So I actually ended up in mortgage lending right out of college, and that transferred to banking after the financial crisis kind of hit. So I ended up in banking as an assistant manager for a year or so, quickly became a branch manager. Had been a branch manager for about 10 years before venturing into commercial lending. And I think the background of the relatable experience there is I kind of adapted a sports management coaching mentality for my leadership style and my management style. And then that, certainly the competitiveness and drive of sports was a very big part of the sales culture aspect of a lending position, and making sure that we're taking care of communities and working together as a team. All of those were really relatable and transferable experiences to the banking world.
Happy to follow Andrew.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, please.
I cut you off last time too.
All right, I said I've worked at this company my whole life. So I started, our bank had a high school student teller program. And, I'd seen some other classmates participate in it before. I was just interested in kind of having a, professional type job to get started in. I was interested in business, so I took that job. And from there, I helped out through college. During breaks, I would work as a teller or in loan servicing, filing, and just gaining some experience in different areas. As I was about to graduate, they called me and said that they had a position open in their fraud area. I had no experience, but I thought that's kind of interesting. I didn't quite know what path I wanted to take. So I applied and they hired me and I came on board, and it was at a really interesting time because all of the frauds and scams were really getting more advanced and technical. So I got to be involved with a lot of program development, training, and communication to customers, that type of stuff. So I, at one point, was asked to be in a leadership program, and the marketing SVP at the time, and she's still my supervisor, was my mentor in that program. So I got a little more familiar with that avenue through that experience. And when a job opened up, it was kind of ready for me to take a next step in my role at the bank, and it just seemed to be a good fit. And she took a chance on me because, again, I didn't really have the full background there, but it's given me a lot of opportunities to grow and get involved. And some of that, past experience in different areas of the bank has certainly been helpful when you're having to communicate complicated changes and products and things to the customer. So it's been an interesting road, but some great opportunities at our bank as well.
Thanks, Amy.
So I graduated. Oh, sorry. You go. All right, I'll go. So I graduated high school in 2010 and went right to Great Bay Community College to work on a medical coding certificate. I finished that. It was only about a 1.5-year certificate program, and I couldn't find a job. So I just kept taking courses, gen eds, to work towards a bachelor's, and I ended up transferring to SMU pretty soon after that. And during that time, I had gotten a job as a teller rather than a medical coder, and I just have been on the banking path ever since. So from teller, I was a teller for about a year. I then worked in a call center for a credit union for a little while. And then I jumped track to quality assurance as well. So monitoring chats and emails, gaining a lot of business analysis experience, which has directly translated to my current role, which is IT specialist and mostly process improvement. My role is really morphing right now. I never thought that I would be in a position to be sort of recommended to just be brought on through my network. And so, my talent was sought, and I am sort of a go-between between IT and the front end to make sure that we are leveraging technology as best we can in our branches. So that's where I've gone. It's been an interesting, it's certainly bobbed and weaved.
I'll see. So I joined the financial industry, or Mascoma Bank, in 2016. It's my first banking job was with Mascoma Bank, and I joined the bank from the community relations event planning side, and I was really fortunate to have a mentor in the HR department at that organization who I was trying to decide where I saw my career going and where my career path would take me, and they recommended looking at HR, that it could be a spot that I really could excel. And so I was starting to think about HR as being the path I would take, and an opportunity became available at Mascoma Bank. And I had never thought about a bank as where my career would take me. But my first bank account was with Mascoma Bank, and I played on sports teams that the bank had sponsored, and it was always a part of my radar, but never where I thought I would go, just because it wasn't even on my radar. And so when the opportunity arose, I jumped at it because it was an organization I knew was a really big part of the community that I loved. And when I joined the bank, I think you'll hear this from many people, I think you already did too, is that was really fortunate to be told, okay, master this job, learn what interests you, and then we're going to allow you to run in that direction. So I joined as an HR and recruiting assistant and was given the opportunities to explore all areas of HR and where my passions were. And I found talent management was the direction I wanted to go. And so was given the opportunities to gain the experience and the certifications I needed and given the responsibilities and tasks in that area to be able to grow into my current role. So I feel very fortunate.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. I always enjoy hearing about people's very non-linear career paths. You know, my joke is always that I wanted to be a nun when I was a kid. Obviously that didn't happen, and that's okay. So yeah, learning that, you know, experiences aren't linear is, I think, a really rewarding thing to hear. So with that in mind, realizing that no day is typical, would anyone like to jump in and describe what an average day in the life is like within their role at their bank?
Sure. In the marketing area, you know, I have a couple people on a team that I manage that together we manage most of the communication, advertising needs for the bank, including, you know, social media, PR, events, all hands on deck, anything that comes up or gets thrown at us. Every day is a little different, which is nice about marketing, I guess. And there's always a list of things that we want to be doing. So there's always more to be done. More recently, I find myself spending a lot of time in project meetings because banks are currently implementing new services and technology. And with that, the customers need to understand them and be aware of them. So we're always a part of any of the major, you know, implementations or rollouts at the bank, which is exciting and interesting. So, you know, I enjoy that part of my role as well.
One of the beauties of being a commercial lender is that no day is typically the exact same. I can be all over the place. I like to use the example. I could meet with 4 landscape companies in a row, and all 4 situations and scenarios can be entirely different. So it is more of an art, I guess, is the way I would word it, than a science. And you really have to be able to adapt and have kind of some of that experience and knowledge to work with those businesses. I think the most enjoyable part of being a commercial lender is being able to learn about the businesses and how they individually are and how they work, and being able to influence businesses within the community that I live and work in. So I think that's a huge part of community banking and a huge part of community lending. And it's hard to say that each day is the same, because I think that they really vary based on what's on my plate and what type of conversations with what type of businesses I have. So
Awesome. Anybody else?
I'm just gonna, because again, Andrew, I'm same kind of department you are. Agree. There's as even as an assistant, no day is the same. My mentor, when she was training me, said the fun thing about commercial loans is that they're always different. The difficult thing about commercial loans is that they are always different. So you could have, you know, two companies that are do the same business, but the loan requests are completely different in every aspect. So that's kind of what I like, is I never know what I'm walking into in the morning or what fires I might have to put out throughout the day.
Right. You know, it's a fun job when like 8 to 9 is blocked out for like, what fires do I need to put out before I can, you know, get my coffee? Awesome. Well, I want to pivot a little bit because this is something that really interests me, and it's been brought up a couple of times. So again, anyone's welcome to jump in, but if you could explain or describe how your role or your bank benefits and works with the community that you're a part of, I would love to hear more about that.
I can certainly speak to that. I think community banking is really influential for the community. So I know that as a commercial lender, obviously making loans to the community directly influences the community that I live and work in, and that the bank serves. But Savings Bank of Walpole as a bank is also very community minded, and it's not about necessarily sponsoring or doing something like that so much as it is that we want to be present at those events as well. It's the community that we live and work in, so we want to be there, not just put the money behind it, but actually show up to the events and support the organization that's putting on those events. So from top to bottom, I think that the bank that I work for does a fantastic job being present in the community, both financially in supporting, but also in having volunteerism be a community culture from the top to the bottom within our organization, and then actually going out and doing that. Just as an example, we're doing Source to Sea cleanup on Sunday. We serve at Community Kitchen in town and kind of have a rotating schedule for that, just as two quick examples of things that we do. So
Thank you.
I'll
I
echo.
can speak to that. Oh gosh, again, sorry, you go this time.
Oh, sure. Okay. All right. I won't speak for long, I promise. But I'll echo Andrew's sentiment also, and I could talk about all day long about what I'm most proud of that Mascoma does in our communities. But I think the moments that stop me in my tracks and is when I'm most proud of the position I'm in the organization is when I walk through our retail space or I'm speaking with a commercial lender about the amazing nonprofit that we're helping create a new space in, or watching somebody open their first account or planning for retirement and all of a sudden realizing they have the tools and ability to retire comfortably and be able to move forward with their goals is the moment that knowing that I'm there to support our team members who are there face to face with those people in our community are the moments that really stop me in my tracks and I'm the most proud of.
I think community involvement is really a pillar of community banking, to be honest. Bank of New Hampshire, certainly, I think every bank, every community bank really supports their employees in philanthropic efforts and volunteer days, matching charitable donations, really just everything that they can do to support us giving back to our communities and to the causes that are personal to each individual community that we are a part of, and the causes that we want to help with as employees too. So I think it's, like I said, I think it's really a pillar of community banking, to be honest.
Awesome. I love to hear that. Let's see, does anyone else want to chime in, or I'm happy to move on to the next question as well?
I think even in the video and with, each of our comments, you'll find a lot of similar responses because it is such a huge part. I mean, especially in mutual community banking, we're not investing in, or paying stockholders, we're investing back in the community. So it's a huge part of our job and who we are. And there's a level of care and commitment to the community that you don't find in every industry. So it's definitely a place, you can feel good about working at. So that's been a wonderful fit for me, and I'm sure for everybody on the call.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was interesting whenever this panel really even first came up, because my main bank account is one that I made when I was in kindergarten. So I think that really just kind of shows the impact of community and banking, because I'm 5 hours away from the bank right now, and I fight to keep that bank because that account's as old as I am. So I really appreciate that. So switching again, we also asked the students whenever they registered to submit some questions, and I noticed that there were quite a few that came in about internships. So I wondered, Jen, specifically with your role, if you wouldn't mind speaking to, internship opportunities in a bank, and then anyone else is welcome to chime in as well.
I love internship programs, so I will talk again all day about our internship program. I highly encourage students to explore internships at banks. For many reasons, but one that I think makes our industry unique is just there's so many aspects of a bank and a financial institution that they really have an opportunity to explore. I know for our internship program, it's a requirement that our interns job shadow in various departments. So they can't just come and have an internship in their one department. They have to explore other areas. So they get a well-rounded view of how the bank works. And even if they end up joining us in that exact role in which they're interning with us, at least they'll have a better understanding of all the other areas. We actually, our internship is a critical part of our recruiting strategy, as we use it as a tool, and asking our interns to come explore the bank, see if it's a great fit for them, as we hope that we would have a full-time position available for them in that area upon graduation. We've had great success with our interns who've come back and joined us full-time. I actually worked side by side with one of our old interns who actually joined us back in our loan servicing department, and then joined us in HR when we had an available opening. So it's a program that I'm really proud of. I know through the pandemic, a lot of internships is very difficult to maintain some of the internships, the standard in which we want to see, because we want interns to be there and meeting people and having that networking aspect, which is so crucial. So we're really excited and happy to be gearing back up. So this year we are hosting 6 interns, and in a couple of areas that we haven't had interns before. So I was actually just had lunch with our new chief risk officer and chatting about having a risk intern, so a BSA risk intern, which will be really exciting. But I highly encourage students to explore an internship, and just to be able to make those connections, and if you haven't gotten an internship for this summer, to make sure you still make that connection for the previous year. I'm also seeing a bit more of a trend of seeing fall internships also, and a bit more flexibility around when internships can be hosted. So definitely explore it.
Awesome. And I wondered too, just while we're kind of on the topic, you alluded to it a little bit as well, but is there a future for remote positions in the banking industry? What does that look like now? Has the pandemic changed that? Any kind of like a landscape of what that might look like in the future?
You want me to start, and then anyone can chime in?
Yeah, please.
Perfect. So pre-pandemic, we had 1, maybe 2 hybrid employees. Walking out of the pandemic, we have a majority of our positions that now can be in a hybrid setting. Of course, we have departments that have to return back to the office, at more customer-facing positions who have very confidential, sensitive information that we have back in the office. But we do have quite a few departments who are now have flexible work schedules. Our HR department is one of them, IT, commercial lending, retail lending has the ability to be flexible. So I think coming out of the pandemic, we'll see a lot more flexibility around, and not just remote work, but also around hybrid schedules, and understanding that we might have some days we want to be in the office and have that social aspect and being able to collaborate, and then still have the flexibility of being able to move remote for certain days of the week. So I think we'll see many more positions in the future.
Awesome. That's good to hear. Anyone else have any thoughts about internships or remote work in banking?
More on the remote side is I agree with Jen. Coming out of the pandemic, my position included, a lot more of the bank that is not customer facing so much does have the flexibility that if they need to work from home for a day or a week, they can certainly do that, and not lose any time. But again, there's that hybrid, we can work in the office if we need to for that, social aspect. Or again, like for me, sometimes I need access to the files.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point too. I think that's I guess a soapbox that I'm sort of developing, is that I think that hybrid work and remote work, it's absolutely fantastic. I obviously enjoy it myself, but I think there's also something to be said for being in the office and have that interaction, especially at an entry level position. That interaction, that sociability of it, I think is really, really critical. So I'm glad that you mentioned that as well. Awesome. So again, taking a slight left turn here, Laura, I wonder if you could speak to a little bit more about your role and just IT in the banking industry. So for instance, we had several questions come in. If I just kind of rattle it off, like I see, data science, data analytics, cybersecurity, IT. Can you just explain a bit more about what those roles look like within this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that cybersecurity question, the BS in cybersecurity and how that might fit into banking, and I was like, everywhere. That is the answer. Everywhere in banking that is needed. We need that on, that level of awareness on the front line. We need it on the operations side. We need it in IT. Cybersecurity and information security and data protection is only becoming more and more important and critical. And everyone needs to be on high alert as we move forward with how critical that is. So there's space for that sort of expertise and passion in any area. Even I would say that even our lenders on this call have to be on high alert for fraudulent loans and have to be cognizant of staying secure with transmitting documents and communication. So it's really everywhere in banking as far as cybersecurity. As far as data, there's also a lot of room for data, and I think that would probably, Amy can probably also speak to that in terms of how they use data for customer experience. But that's also, I think, a growing specialty in banking, is that we want to be making decisions for customers that are sound decisions, that are not just sort of whichever way the wind blows or a best guess. We want to be making educated decisions on what customers are liking and wanting and asking for. So data is huge, and so is cybersecurity right now.
Thank you. That's good to know. And actually, I think I'll go ahead and take that hint if you don't mind, Amy. Could you talk a little bit about how your data usage, especially like with the marketing lens and what that looks like as well?
Well, even cybersecurity, I was going to follow up and say, the brand and reputation risk of, a cybersecurity incident or breach or anything like that is, something that we're always, thinking about, and is so critical to, who we are and protecting customers, and that they can feel confident and safe in banking with us. So, we often are connecting with the cybersecurity and fraud teams at the bank, looking, asking them about what their customers are calling in, seeing what the latest risks are, so that we can communicate that out and hopefully protect, some people from falling victim to different types of scams and things as well. But yeah, on the data side, it's, constantly growing and changing. Everything from social media. We always want to know, when you're spending, marketing is a big spender in any industry. So we always want to make sure that what we're doing, we're getting, benefit from, and we're looking at the results on different campaigns we're running. So it's always, a growing area. And of course, I think customers in every industry, but particularly in banking, are expecting more personalization and a very seamless experience. So it's something that we're, always focused on in a lot of different areas of the bank. So data touches everything, really, and customer information, and making sure the information flows from every system that we have, so that a customer knows that when they're logging in, that things are connected together and are working well. So there's definitely a lot of different aspects to how data is used, and a lot of different areas that it would be applied to within the banking fields.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point. I think that really kind of ties into, I think, a part of why this panel is so important is this idea that banking isn't maybe what we think of it as. It's this big interconnected hub with several different pieces of it, and it's all very important, and it's not perhaps what it used to be. So I really appreciate that input. So to pivot again, Andrew, I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling me what you think are the top 2 skills that you use every day, day to day within your role.
Well, top 2 skills. All right. So I think people skills is number 1. So in a lending customer facing role, you have to be able to communicate well with people that you work with, those borrowers that you're making loans to, realtors, attorneys, CPAs, there's a lot of different communication and people skills that you need to have. So I think that is definitely number one. And then number two, I think, is you need to be able to have a little bit of an analytical mindset at the same time. So you've got to be able to present yourself and have those strong people skills, but also understand, kind of base level of what the financials are you might be looking at for a business, so that you can understand whether there's actually something that can work there or not. So that you really both are going to tie into you being able to put a loan together or not, and whether or not that's going to make sense for somebody. So those are probably the top two skills I think that I use day in and day out.
Awesome. So, and I wonder if I could dive in a little bit on the point about having the analytical skills, because you've mentioned, again, like analysis, but you haven't explicitly said math. And as an English major, I'm wondering, do you, as someone who doesn't like math, like, do you feel that math is a critical skill, which of course it is to a point, but is, the analytics more important? Or if you don't have math skills, is that a good fit? Kind of what are you thinking there?
I do think you use math a lot in lending. So, just a general conversation. Someone calls me up and says, "Hey, I want to buy a commercial building for $500,000. I need to be able to understand, what the base down payment is that person's going to be able to do." So I do think you use math, percentages, loan to values, what monthly payments are going to be, that type of calculations are going to be quick. And, you can even do some quick financial numbers if you look at tax returns for somebody, and need to be able to have an understanding and skill set to utilize math in its base level. But at the same time, I think those are skills that can be learned and developed over time. So if you come in not being strong in math, I think you can certainly learn those skills, and there's plenty of resources and mentorships to allow you to develop those skills over time. So while I do think it's used, it's not necessarily a skill that can't be developed.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's good to know. And I've heard lots of people on this call mention as well, mentorship, and that seems to be a pretty big theme within this industry. Would anyone want to speak more about the mentorship aspects of the industry? I'll leave that open. First come, first serve. First off the mic.
I can certainly speak that, but I just spoke, so whoever was going to go ahead.
I can go. It's Laura. I was actually thinking about mentorship today, and how many instances I've had mentors call out skill sets of mine that I didn't realize I had in myself, and that has really carried me through with such a trickle effect to developing my career, and being a little bit more active and a little bit more vocal, and just sort of putting myself out there. It's really strengthened my core beliefs. I mean, my aspirations were just a little bit smaller than where I've ended up when I started my college career in a medical coding certificate. And I have many mentors to thank for sort of saying, no, you can do more, and just continuing to encourage me. So I forget where I first heard it, but I know that it's also sort of common thought now that you should have a mentor and you should also have a sponsor. And sometimes those are the same person, and sometimes they're different people. But I think it's also important to find those people and build those relationships with a sponsor who's going to be somebody that says your name in a room and knows your strengths, and really advocates for you.
Yeah, so someone who is a sponsor one-on-one and also in a group setting, basically.
Yep.
Fantastic. Anything to add, anyone else?
The only thing I'll add is that I think you'll be amazed at how many people want to help and who are excited to share their experiences and to help you grow. So I think as long as you walk in the door and are curious and you ask the question of just asking for help and just listening to people's opinions, you'll be amazed at how many people are willing to help you. So if it's a little scary at the idea of finding a mentor, because it sounds like this really formal process, I've gained so much help by just walking in the door and asking. help, and people are more than willing to be there. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
I'll piggyback off that comment real quick. I'd say that a lot of people in banking will get, and in any career or industry, will get a lot of empowerment out of lifting others up. And I do feel that I had many strong mentors, and I know that they enjoyed watching my development and growth. And then as a branch manager for multiple years, I enjoyed that aspect of the job probably the greatest, was being able to lift those around me and see their development and growth. And as a commercial lender now, I have several mentors that have helped my development and growth, and I'm sure that it is an enjoyable thing for them to pass on their knowledge and skill set to others. And that's really, in my opinion, how banking is successful, is having that knowledge passed on from one generation to another, or from one somebody who's been doing commercial lending for 10, 15 years, passing it on to someone who's been doing it for year one or year two. So I think there's a lot of that in banking.
Right, and that cycle, because I guess eventually the hope is that everyone will be at a point where they can mentor someone else, and then it just keeps going. So that's definitely something that would be an admirable goal for me to strive towards. That's good to hear. So okay,
Can
so
I
again
just
we've got
tack on to something Jen said? Jen kind of touched on being vulnerable, and I think that that's really important in finding a mentor. Occasionally, you will just stand out like a diamond in a rough, and a mentor will seek you out. But like Jen said, like, be vulnerable, and don't be afraid to say, like, hey, I'm looking for some mentorship. I'm looking for some support. Because I think, to Andrew's point, like, people are hungry to help. So don't be afraid. Put yourself out there.
Yeah, there's some kind of phrase, I always get it wrong, like a closed mouth doesn't get fed. I don't remember how it goes, but I think that's kind of what you're referring to, and I think that's a very accurate point. So thank you for sharing. So we have time for, I think, a couple more questions. So again, I'll call out to any of the students in the chat. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, feel free to, again, put it in the chat. I can go ahead and coordinate and ask those questions. And I was going to ask Emily a question, but there you are. Okay. I was like, no, I can't see you. So Emily, I was just going to kind of take another left turn, if you don't mind. And if you could share what you think are the two biggest challenges facing the baking industry today.
When you say banking, are you talking more general, or like what I see day to day in what I do?
I would say
Because
either, but actually, you know what? Actually, can I say what you see day to day? That's actually suddenly, I'd like to hear about that, please.
Well, some of the biggest things I see, again, day to day, to go back to the cybersecurity and the data, is making sure who we are communicating with is who the email corresponds to, whether that's looking back in our contacts and making sure it's the right email, or because a lot of times what we might have on our system might not always be accurate. Making sure that certain data is private, whether it's removing an account number or setting it secure, because there is a lot of the fraud and hacking and going on in just any department in the banking industry today. So that's one challenge I think I definitely see day to day. And I don't know if there's really, I know like the retail department again is seeing a lot of, not just the fraud, but the scams, the romance scams and the friendship scams, where they target, the lonely and the individuals, and over time win their trust. That's been shared a lot at Woodsville, on especially, and we encourage our, my coworkers and everybody that works at the bank to be, vigilant on that, and, praise them when they do stop it. We've actually had, thousands of dollars saved, because employees have caught on to it being a scam. So those, I think in any industry, you really see a lot of that day to day, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, no, that's good to know. And I think that again kind of goes back to the whole the hub that we were talking about. Like it takes a village. And so you talk about those employees recognizing when that happens. I think that's really I think a mark of a good community and a good bank. So that's good to hear. So I did notice, so Tracy's one of our students in the audience here, and it looks like they've got their hand up. So Tracy, I'm going to go ahead and allow your mic to go on. If you have a question, feel free to ask it, and we'll go from there. So you should now be able to unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay. Tracy, did you have a question, or I know I tend to click the hand up thing by accident sometimes. Okay, we're going to assume that it was a misclick, which happens all the time. No hard feelings. And what I would like to do, this is one of my favorite questions to ask to kind of round off the day. What is the best piece of professional advice that you have either given or been given? And I know I kind of sprung it on you, so I'll give you a moment to think. Mine, for instance, actually comes from my mother, and she's always told me that no matter what, if you're offered a breath mint, you should take it. So it's obviously at face value. If you're offered a breath mint, you might need it, but also in the kind of more, metaphorical way, like sort of in the sense of if you're offered a breath mint, if you're offered an open door, take it, don't ask questions, basically. So I'll open up to anyone. Best piece of professional advice you've ever given or it's been given to you. I know it's a big question.
I think just for me was the commercial lender. She has since retired, but when I interviewed for the position, I did 3 different times. I went back and I met with them, and then she called me and said, we'd like to offer it to you. So just the fact that I had no commercial lending experience whatsoever, and she took a risk, took a gamble because she believed in me that I could do it, and always day to day encouraged me, saying, "You got this. You can handle it. You can do it." And it just was a big, I mean, not necessarily actual words of advice or anything, but just that one little moment at the beginning was very encouraging, and I still carry that with me, even though she's retired now. So
I can't think of advice that I've been given, but I would just say, like, show up as your whole self, because you're going to give the most authentic input as if you do. It's okay if you're sensitive. It's okay if you're a little bit more antisocial. It's okay if you have questions, ask the questions. It's likely that somebody else has the same question, or 5 other people also have the same question in the same room. So just show up.
I think advice I give every new hire, but especially our interns when they're joining, is get very comfortable advocating for yourself. Because in an industry where we want you to grow and we want you to find your lifelong career, no one can read your mind. So the moment you walk through this door, start communicating what you're interested in, where you think you might see your career going, people you want to talk to. And that way it can give the people around you the opportunities to open the doors for you and make the connections and help you along the way. But they can't do that unless they know where you want to go or that you have interest in that area. So I always tell people to just make sure that they get comfortable advocating for themselves, even if they don't ultimately know where they want to see their career. At least the people around you know they can help you and open doors for you.
Some advice I would like to share would be to not be afraid to not have the answer. I think a lot of times in banking, there's so many scenarios that are hard to give a direct answer to right away, very much so in commercial lending. And to not be afraid to say, let me look into that for you and find the answer out, follow up with that customer. I think too many people are hesitant to do that and will just go with what their gut instinct is, even if they're not confident that that's correct. And then they're backtracking and trying to correct what they provided that was not an accurate statement. So just not being afraid to say, let me find out for you and get back to you and go from there.
Love that.
I can't think of a specific saying or anything that sticks out to me, but I gave a lot of thought to that. There was somebody who asked on the list about what's the best pathway to an executive role, and I was thinking about that question a lot. Not that I'm there yet, so I can speak, but I think the most important thing is relationships and people, treating people well, learning how to hire well, learning how to manage well. Nobody gets, to the top on their own. So I think, just building relationships, getting to know people, and, I think that's the way that you gain opportunities and information and connections. So just to take those opportunities when they come, say yes if somebody asks you to be in a leadership program, or something where you can connect with other people who might be in the same situation or a different one, or help you kind of figure out your path along the way. So
awesome. No, that is perfect. That's a great way to wrap it up. So I appreciate everyone's time and your answers today. I will recap briefly and just let everyone know that the session, again, it's being recorded. So I will be uploading this link and sharing it out to everyone who attended and registered. My hope would be, Friday sometime for that, but I'll certainly let everyone know. But again, we appreciate your all's time tonight and the words of wisdom that you shared with us. And I hope everyone enjoys their evening and thinks about what we all learned here today. So again, thanks everyone and have a great night.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Nice thing.
Thank you,
Bye.
Daisy.
Bye.
Bye.